Hello, class. This is your Quiz 1 review covering chapters 1, 9, and 18. Independent women of the 1920s fashioned this clothing style, which expressed women's rejection of Victorian moral standards. These women who boldly redefined femininity were called flappers. Understanding oneself sexually and having interpersonal skills and integrity are two characteristics of sexual intelligence. Other aspects involve scientific knowledge and consideration of the cultural context of sexuality. Our Sexuality, the required text, takes a psychosocial approach, reflecting the author's view that psychological factors such as emotions, attitudes, and motivations, and social conditioning, known as the process by which we learn our social groups' expectations and norms, have a crucial impact on sexual attitudes, values, and behaviors. We're talking about psychosocial. In blank, circa 2500 before Christ era, the earliest known sex manuals called Kama Sutra were discovered. We're talking about China. According to some researchers, philosopher Vatsyayana wrote the Kama Sutra, which consists of 7 books focusing on love, pleasure, relationships, and life. Contrary to beliefs, out of the 7 books, only one chapter is dedicated to sexual techniques and positions. Calling a woman a slut to humiliate, intimidate, and degrade her for sexual behaviors that cross the line of acceptable sexual activities is termed slut shaming. Both sexes engage in slut shaming, with women often bearing the brunt of it. Slut shaming is used to show contempt towards a woman or to avoid being targeted oneself. According to Our Sexuality, the required text, Islam's development of blank involves one man married to multiple wives. However, blank is the umbrella term for this practice, which is defined as one person married to more than one person at the same time. We're talking about polygamy. So let me uh, put this in context. 2 other terms are associated with polygamy: polyandry and polygyny. Polyandry describes when a woman is married to more than one man, and polygyny describes when one man is married to more than one woman. Okay. This term is one explanation for a man's inability to maintain sexual arousal within committed, loving relationships. That is Madonna whore complex. This theory was introduced by Sigmund Freud, which describes a troubling split in how some men perceive women. They categorize them as either saintly and pure, a Madonna, or sexually promiscuous, a whore. But they can never see both in someone. Like, um, uh, I want a, uh, one kind of woman at home, and she might be a different kind of person in public. Their inability to see more than one side of a person is the issue here. Okay. Lisa Diamond describes the variability in same-sex and other sex attraction and involvement at different times and different situations throughout the lifespan as sexual fluidity. Sexual fluidity is also termed non-monosexuality. And sexual fluidity, the opposite of it, describes someone who is sexually fixed or monogamous. Okay. This term describes individuals who are sexually, emotionally, and socially attracted to same-sex loving individuals. That term is homosexuality. Also, the term homosexuality includes the social and political concerns related to homosexual orientation. So it's not just about attraction. What term describes the prevailing image of Black womanhood, often shaped by stereotypes? The corresponding stereotype for Black men was that of the hypersexual and potentially violent buck. We're talking about Jezebel. So this term dates back to slavery. Slaves were viewed as sexual objects. The euphemism Jezebel describes a treacherous seductress with an insatiable sexual appetite. Slaves had no right over their bodies, nor had agency over how they were viewed, which greatly influenced or even justified poor treatment by others, especially whites. The notion that young people are enticed and influenced by older homosexuals describes seduction myth theory. This concept was also hypothesized by Sigmund Freud in 1896, before he abandoned it just a year later in 1897. His research then shifted from seduction myth theory to the development of the theory of infantile sexuality. The belief that heterosexuality is superior to a gay, lesbian, or bisexual orientation describes heterosexism. This belief can lead to discrimination and the stigmatization of the LGBTQ plus people. Research about the sexuality of women during the blank blank found that the majority experienced sexual desire and orgasm. That is the Victorian era. Victorians practiced restraint in all aspects of life. However, among men, life was different. Prostitution thrived, providing men with sexual companionship. They smoked, drank, and partied, which was not allowed for women. The process of becoming aware of and disclosing one's gay, lesbian, or bisexual identity is known as coming out. Coming out involves sexual common elements that's discussed in your text. They are self-acknowledgement, acceptance, and openly expressing one's homosexuality through disclosure, informing family and friends, as well as engaging with the gay community. Individuals who are primarily heterosexual and have some degree of sexual interest in and or experience with the same sex are referred to as heteroflexible. Heteroflexible and the term homoflexible are recent terms that give more explanation to numbers 2 and 4 on the Kinsey continuum of sexual orientation. So since Kinsey's continuum was developed in 1948, the language and descriptions were pretty flat. And today, um, we're finding that we're expanding the definitions of many of these terms. Okay. A person who finds intelligence to be the most sexually attractive feature in others could be termed sapiosexual. Most sapiens are attracted to partners with above average intelligence. Some critics argue that sapiosexuality should be considered a fetish or a strong preference, and others consider it an orientation. It's not considered a sexual orientation in your book, but it could be considered an orientation in some of the literature that you read. Amateur, BDSM, fetish, hardcore, softcore, LGBTQ plus, and transgender are categories associated with pornography. Pornography refers to any written, visual, or spoken material depicting sexual activity or genital exposure intended to be sexually arousing. But I have a question. In your opinion, should OnlyFans be classified as pornography? If so, would it be considered hardcore or softcore? Certainly, it will be a topic explored and discussed in the Studies Journal. So, the Porn Studies Journal is a good reference for you if you have questions about pornography. Using sex in exchange for money or expensive gifts mimics prostitution. Prostitution, referred to as sex work, is the oldest profession on record. Prostitution has flourished from men servicing men in ancient Greece and Sumerian civilizations, to courtesans in Renaissance Italy, and the streetwalkers around the world today. This protest followed the police raid on the Stonewall Inn in Greenwich Village, New York City, and is considered the symbolic birth of gay activism. That is the Stonewall incident. The Stonewall incident is also referred to as the Stonewall riots or the Stonewall uprising. It spurred the creation of gay rights organizations such as the Gay Liberation Front. It took place as a 6-day protest from June 28th through July 3rd, 1969. The pride marches that we enjoy today began the following June in 1970. Workers could be eligible for pension, sick leave, and unemployment benefits. Brothels could be regulated to improve safety and working conditions. Tax revenues could provide significant income to communities. All of the above justify legalizing prostitution. The Comstock Act of 1873 was the first U.S. law prohibiting the mailing of blank materials such as birth control devices and birth control pamphlets. That term is obscene. Anthony Comstock was a U.S. postal inspector, and he deemed materials as obscene when they were produced without serious literary, artistic, political, or scientific value. If those materials were patently offensive to contemporary community standards, if the theme appealed to indecent or lewd interest in sex, all of the above he considered to be obscene. However, this This definition is highly subjective and it's absolutely not covered by the First Amendment. Depictions of sexuality produced primarily by women that display mutuality, respect, affection, and a balance of power is erotica. The word erotica is derived from eros, meaning passionate love. In terms of erotic film, most audiences are attracted to portrayals of romance, love, and affection. Massage parlors are sometimes a makeshift storefront for a quick service brothel. These houses were historically typical in the United States, but are illegal in some parts of Nevada. The purpose of blank is to protect the public from harmful material. However, the definition is so broad and ambiguous that it prevents health organizations from promoting education, information, and resources. That term is censorship. Through the Comstock Law, censorship was enforced by governments, religious authorities, corporations, and even some individuals censored themselves as just as a means of protection. Um, the First Amendment serves to protect against such censorship. Okay. And finally, which of the 14 amendments protect the freedom of speech? That is the First Amendment. Okay. And lastly, the extra credit question will come from the video, Dartmouth Students Building a Safer Community. This is located in your resources in Module 1.